Hi, and welcome to the extended session of Espresso live event with Patrick Foelck. So we couldn't take up some of the questions that were posed during the session last week, and Patrick was kind enough to agree to this recording where I would be posing some of the questions that we received, and Patrick would be answering them. So we'll be shipping this off to you. So if you're seeing this video currently, it means that you were in fact registered and for the event, either you had attended or you could not attend. But these were some of the questions that we couldn't address during the session. So Patrick, thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
Hey, morning, Shakti. Yes, very happy to. Great questions. I think we've been through the questions and have consolidated down from 60 to about 15 or 20 that we'll answer the next half an hour. Looking forward to the conversation.
Yes, we did receive so many questions and comments. It's a very strong engagement. It shows people were really involved in the topic. So thanks to you for putting on a great show, Patrick. Anyways, just so to move on, so let us take up the first question. This is from Becky Omaku. Is there a value threshold or risk threshold for implementing a chapter or a squad?
Yeah, good question. So I think want to start with quickly explaining the concept again. So our people, all the capabilities we have are housed in 3 chapters. That's sort of the home of the people. So you can either have a focus on delivering customer excellence, so being an account manager, a stakeholder, partner to the business, then you sit in customer excellence. You can be focusing on core procurement activities, sourcing, category management, the stuff that we do every day. Then you sit in delivery, or you can be focusing on creating solutions. So the things that we want to sell to the business beyond just sourcing, category management, or enablement activities like analytics. Then you sit in insights enablement. So that's the home. That's like your passport. That's what makes you sort of as a citizen of overall procurement. And then we have across these chapters, sort of almost like as a matrix, 2 types of work that we do. We do the foundational work, which is the work that we do according to our home. So if I have a British passport and I go on holiday in sort of the UK or in Britain, then I'm sort of doing my foundational holiday, my work, in this case, that I do in my chapter. So if I'm in delivery and I'm doing a sourcing work and marketing, then this is my foundational work and sourcing. Non-foundational work, as we call it, is the work that we do in squads. So bigger, more complex projects or initiatives, things that are not sort of the thing that we do normally in our chapter. And that's when we create projects or squads for this. And they get staffed with people from the different capabilities. So let's say a complex, big marketing initiative where we are creating a new solution. We are working on digitizing all of our events, for example, that we have done face-to-face in the past. Now with the business and the supplier, we're creating a sort of digital platform. That requires people from customer excellence to bring requirements in from the business. That requires people from delivery to maybe source a vendor at some point, and it requires people from INS, so infrastructure, sorry, my insights enablement team to develop the solution. They will come also in. That's when we develop the squad. And where and how a squad is developed is based on the resource management approach that we run. So someone is prioritizing and picking the initiative up, and then we determine what is needed for this squad. And then it gets basically staffed with who is available, who is interested from the different procurement capabilities and likely the business as well.
Cool, that's great. So next question, Patrick. So this is from Carmel Fegelman. How do you provide expertise in specific areas such as IT or HR, where the business will not trust someone that doesn't have expertise? What kind of expertise do you focus in on with few specialists?
Mm-hmm. This goes back to the way our delivery chapter is structured, where I mentioned we have a large pool of great procurement experts, where we want to basically leverage their capability rather than their many years of expertise in certain categories or certain procurement skills. We want to give talent the opportunity to develop outside their maybe niche domain of having sourced marketing for the last 20 years. And ultimately, we want to become, through the flexibility, more efficient. Yes, this is a concern that we've also thought about. And that's why we've created a number of expert positions in the different category domains or areas. So while we have many people who have good procurement capability, sort of floating around across different projects and may do a marketing project 1 month and wider professional services project the other month, we have experts who then support and consult the team to deliver what's needed. I think we are picking up here sort of the model from consulting again, where you usually have many consultants who can work on many different projects, and you have a number of experts who come in and support that project team with the expertise or experience that's needed. And that's, I think, is a great model that allows for a lot of scaling. But we'll see how it goes. So far, it works quite well. So far, the teams float not across the entire portfolio of work and categories that we have, but are more limited. So marketing professional services is a good example where someone may do a more marketing focused initiative 1 month or one part of the year, and then a more maybe IT services related one, which to an extent you can argue the underlying logic and structure of a deal is similar. But if you want to acquire certain knowledge about a supplier market, again, you call in the expert and you have it. At some point, maybe we stretch this person further and see whether he can also work or she can work on a fleet or an R&D agreement. That's something we are still testing and trying to find out how far people want to go. And it certainly also depends on the willingness of an individual to learn and grow.
Okay, so moving on, Patrick. So next question is from Christian Christensen. Hi, Patrick. Major pitfalls to be aware of in maintaining this operating model?
Yeah, I think we are just learning. We're getting started with this. So I can't give you the last 2, 3, 4 years of experience. But I think some lessons learned that we're already seeing while transitioning and operationalizing our new operating model is biggest thing is keeping the balance, right? Business continuity versus working in this new operating model. So when we started out, for example, we've also focused a few more customer excellence people and insights and enablement folks on core delivery work. They've come from sort of sourcing and category management in the past, have now picked up new work in the new chapters, so they have moved job. But in order to ease the transition, we've sort of let them still do some of the old work and sort of over time transition them out. That has given us a certain ease of moving into the new operating model. And now biggest focus is on business continuity, so maintaining good procurement service while starting to really ramp up the new services. I think that's the big focus that our resourcing, portfolio management, and performance management team really need to look after, that we continue to deliver good procurement work. Business is not sort of stopped in doing business, and we are starting to bring in the new capabilities, start adding value from the different areas that we've suggested we will.
That's great. So we have 2 questions from Corinne Hua. So the first question from how do you handle prioritization between the different business division needs? And are these cases where procurement professionals believe they can add value, but this does not align with business perception?
Mm-hmm. So that goes back to our overall portfolio and again, resource management approach. We are maintaining a portfolio of everything that we hear from the business needs doing, what we know needs doing from our internal analysis, for example, contracts running out. And we also add all kinds of ideas, opportunities, initiatives that we want to drive as procurement to this portfolio from the different chapters. Yeah, anyone can pick this up. Anyone can set the flag this needs doing. And ultimately, many people who deal with suppliers, for example, always get new ideas. All of this gets added to the portfolio. Then Ideally, we have enough capacity to do most of it because we address it through either technology or we address it through our delivery chapter, the core sourcing and category management work. If, and we will see it, if there is a need to prioritize, we'll do it against certain criteria. Certainly, customer expectations is top of the list. And as the question goes to sort of competing priorities, I think that's when we have to get the customer excellence folks in, who ultimately have the responsibility to represent the business and also carry the targets. So they will have to have a discussion together with, in this case, delivery, who provides the resource to do the work. How can this be prioritized? If we end up in true conflict and can't resolve this, we can also, because the model is so flexible, always call in external support. And we are starting to shape up some agreements with external parties to, on a very flexible basis, add capacity into our model or outsource this particular job and get it done. We may even want to go as far as giving external parties access to our portfolio, and some of the more standard work that they can do maybe more efficiently, more effectively, cheaper, based on benchmarks and experience, they do and pick up and just do. So we're not there yet, but something we're thinking about.
Okay. So next question is again from Corin. It's the second question, in fact. So how do you measure business satisfaction? Do you run regular surveys? Any other way?
Yeah, it's a great question. So measuring success, how do we track benefits? And ultimately, how do we prove this model works? Has been a question that's come up a few times. So we have a, I think, quite sophisticated balanced scorecard that sort of tracks everything that we do in procurement. Major areas are ultimately the productivity, our performance that we deliver. I think that's bread and butter business for every procurement organization. Then we'll focus on digital and process efficiency, so simplification. We'll focus on customer, and the fourth bucket is our people. We have a number of metrics against these four buckets. And I think this one here in particular goes against the productivity and also to an extent the simplification one. We have set targets for those aligned with the business that we have to meet and ultimately are working against. But the third chapter, or sorry, the third bucket here, customer, then also manages or tracks and monitors the overall satisfaction. Yes, there are surveys, but again, there are also a number of, I call them facts, metrics, where we also track do we deliver against what we've agreed with the customer on certain things like buying experience? Because I feel if you send a survey once a year, that can be very qualitative and depends maybe something on the mood of the customer that day or based on the last experience the customer had with procurement. So it's very hard to evaluate the overall performance. And therefore we have decided we have in the customer element of a balanced scorecard, a combination of quantitative and qualitative metrics. Qualitative is survey, quantitative is tracking against certain values and KPIs we've agreed together with the business.
Okay, that's great. So next one is from Chris Guning. It sounds like you reduce delivery to a flat, that is quote unquote, to a flat buying activity where category management can add more value by engaging early with the business and offering their category market knowledge and contacts.
We have indeed flattened the organization, and we've also indeed, I think, pooled the team largely. So again, using capability more than just specific niche or siloed category expertise or experience. I explained earlier how we ensure expertise is maintained and sort of supports the team overall. That team is still focusing on sourcing and all the good things that we do in category management. So we're not saying they are working on buying activities or sort of tactical operational procurement activities. Rather the contrary, because a lot of this is actually picked up by our technology. So when the business has a need for buying something, they go through our landing page where they can buy, and I explained this in the actual main event. There's a chatbot. There is a lot of content available for them to buy against. Hence, the stuff that comes to our delivery team, the sourcing and category management team, is already somewhat larger and more complex. And that's where we use the capability of the team. And we definitely do not want to lose the opportunity to be early engaged, hence also the connection to customer excellence. And I think the overall insights team that can also support.
Okay. Next question is from Dirk Van Ham. Starting agile does often come with the need of extra resources due to extra coordination and resource planning. How did you manage?
Yeah, it's a great question. And everyone, I think, when starting out on a more agile or flexible operating model may think, well, now everything is more efficient by definition. And we don't need so much coordination, all these old school stuff of tracking things all out the window. Actually, it's not true. I think if you want to work in a more agile way, absolutely correct. You need more coordination, you need more structure and good processes to allow you to be agile and flexible, but not completely lose control over everything. Yes, we've invested in additional resources, especially in the portfolio management, resource management, performance management area. So those resources keep track of what we do, keep us honest and manage us to an extent, and allow for the flexibility to happen, and allow for the benefits to come. We have achieved this through ultimately creating the flexibility in delivery. So doing more with slightly less. And I explained this in the main video, where I had, for example, 5 marketing folks being very busy in year 1, but less busy in year 2, waiting for more work. And then, for example, the fleet guy is exactly the opposite. Now I have, instead of 5 + 5, 5 marketing, 5 fleet, I've created 8 overall procurement professionals, with 1 or 2 being experts in the categories, and I've freed up 2. And those 2, in this example, I can basically invest in the new capabilities that we created, one being also portfolio performance management and resource management.
Yeah, I think it's very innovative the way you've structured the team. I'm sure people will have more questions, maybe a year down the line, when this goes full steam on. Anyway, the next question. Sorry, I think I lost my marker. Yeah, it's here. Next question is from Freda Elk. Hello, I find this quite interesting. Our organization has disbanded all procurement professionals. So she's quoted all procurement professionals, in quotes, has disbanded all procurement professionals and moving to what they classify as decentralized, where the budget owner is now handling procurement function. Has anyone gone through this before?
Yeah, it's a good observation, and one that I make too. So based on my former life in consulting, I am still very much connected to many organizations, my former client around the world. And I have a big network of procurement professionals who I interact with regularly. And I see a number of companies thinking or actually executing on this decentralization theme. And I think that comes back to, again, what I mentioned in the main video, one of the issues that we have in procurement, where I think technology, but also the work that we do and the processes and the knowledge that's needed is something that can be easier transferred back into individual divisions or individual functions. And if we as a procurement profession don't start really proving that we can do more than using a 5 or 6 step process and the technology that we have to deliver savings, then I think this is a threat that will continue. And hence we've decided at Roche, we need to go the other way. We need to create the value that I've been talking about in the main video. We need to use technology and the different organizational model to move on, and I think move up the maturity curve in order to do this. because otherwise there's a threat that this is happening, that we get decentralized, outsourced, externalized, or replaced by technology. And yes, I see this in a number of companies.
Okay. So next question is from Gulza Oz-Nezil. You mentioned that you know what is in the pipeline months ago. How do you achieve that? Do you have business partners or coming top to down? Visibility of projects is mostly the biggest problem in procurement functions that are transforming. Thank you.
Agree. A big problem. Flying blind is not nice. If you just sit there and wait for the next RFP to be done, it's super hard to manage capacity, but also capability. Our pipeline is filled by three main sort of types of project, I would argue. So as I mentioned earlier, stuff coming in from the business through our customer excellence organization, who are basically walking the corridors, who are the best friends of the business, who understand what's happening, and also have, I think, challenging dialogues with the business on if your business strategy is X, what does it mean for us? How can we support? We've got A, B, C, D idea. And if there is a positive dialogue about something that we could do, even in idea stage, we add this to the pipeline. Second, obviously, is a more day-to-day, very important work that the business needs in terms of we need to buy X, this project is starting, can you do Y, all this stuff. That comes in either through our technology, where the business registers, I need to buy this, and it gets sent to procurement, or ultimately people reach out to our delivery organization, I need to buy a certain good or item. And the third element that enriches the pipeline is the ideas and project initiatives that come more from the market. So our insights enablement organization, who's working with suppliers, is thinking about the business problems that we are aware of, and is trying to create solutions, bigger solutions to business problems. That also gets added to the pipeline. So we have a constant process running, almost like daily, weekly, where new things get added to the pipeline, they get prioritized, they get resource managed, and ultimately then picked up by the organization to be delivered. We, I think, are still testing out how this works, whether we have to do regular opportunity assessments, for example, or whether the way we are doing this today is enough. We'll see. I can report back in maybe 6 to 9 months how we've landed on this. But so far, it's working quite well, and we have a very rich pipeline that we at the moment also connect to the performance. We're trying to close the loop from how and when was this idea identified, how has this been delivered in terms of project or initiative, and also resources, and how have we performed? Because that gives me more information again that I can later do better prioritization, because I understand what's the return on investment of certain projects.
Yeah, I think maybe reconnecting again, maybe a year later or so, it'll be interesting exercise. Anyway, moving on, Patrick. So this question is from Josephine Merguin. Sorry. Yeah. Whatever solution is chosen, co-creation or techno, does procurement participate, in that implementation of that new techno co-creation, and until where?
Yeah, that I think is a question related to the insights and solution part of the business that we created, where we're not responding just with sourcing and category management, but we're actually picking up the underlying business problem and try to find a solution, create a new solution with external partners or internally. Yes, so we as a procurement function, or we as an insights and solution team as part of procurement, we are committing to not only sort of analyzing the problem, understanding the problem, and giving some advice. No, we're co-creating the solution with the business and very likely an external party. We are also, and we've got resources for that, to implement that solution, likely transform the way the business works in order to do this. And we have capacity and capability to run that solution. Not only sort of have a smart idea, basically, but also implement it, create it with the business, and then let the business consume rather than focus on managing this and trying to get this all in place. we do this start to finish. Yeah, idea, create, transform, and deliver, manage, ongoing.
Yeah, sure. So next question is from Karen Tialu. What was your experience in driving this automation approach with regards to marketing services?
Yeah, we are testing this out in a number of categories. So automation here, I think, refers to let the business self-service and have content or marketplace content providers available to ultimately get the need and demand satisfied. We are making great experience with this. We need to still scale this up across many areas, but where we have content already and where we have marketplace providers, the business is very positive because it usually speeds up the process and it gives the business greater visibility in terms of the choice. This so far is receiving good feedback, but we're still, I think, at the starting point across a number of services areas where we're rolling this out to.
Yeah. Okay. Next question is from Kevin Eastwood. How do you evaluate the performance of your procurement organization? Has that also shifted to outcome-based performance only, or are you also using the traditional procurement metrics?
I think I answered that question earlier. So we have 4 areas in our balanced scorecard: people, customer, digital, and simplification. And the 4th bucket is productivity. So in productivity, I would argue we have this more traditional procurement metrics, savings, capital related, payment terms related, other things. In digital and efficiency, customer, people, I think we have more outcomes, more advanced customer focused metrics or people focused metrics that I would argue are not so procurement traditional. They link to how we are set up. They link to how we work. Has a sponsor in procurement every single metrics. They're relevant as a sponsor in the business, and ultimately tie very closely into our overall resource and performance management process.
Okay. Next question is from Lucy Nawar. How do you define a relevant squad to work on? How do you make sure you do not engage in a lot of work and cost, which will not really deliver added value and is dropped after a lot of effort?
Mm-hmm. So I think that comes back to the prioritization mechanism I talked about earlier. So in the portfolio, we have great visibility on what's needed. We then have different mechanisms to prioritize the work. And that work that gets prioritized and then launched, if it's a squad, for example, that has certain delivery milestones, expectations, has been given a performance target, and is following the process, the squad agile process that we have set up, where we have, for example, sprint reviews every 2 weeks. We have certain sponsors, product owners against this. So there's you can argue in the old terms, a certain governance around it. And we would pick up very, very quickly. Again, every 2 weeks, we check in on the project or initiative or squad, whatever we would like to call it. We'll pick up very early if this is going somewhere or not. And if against all odds and against our analysis that has fed the prioritization, we figure out this is not going, this doesn't make sense, the business doesn't want it anymore, there's no supplier for this or whatsoever, then we can terminate the work very, very quickly. Again, that's the advantage of working in this new way, rather than sort of doing all the work for 6 months and then at the end sort of delivering the report and finding out, ooh, that wasn't successful. Yeah, so we have very regular and fast-paced reviews and governance around this.
Okay, so one final question, Patrick. This is from Ralph Walk. How is the workforce evaluated in this operating model? Any redeployment or future needs?
So I think that there are 2 questions in one. So how do we get into the operating model and set up the organization? We've tried to to the largest extent to leverage existing talent, which I think we've done quite successfully. I answered a question around training and upskilling in the main video, so please link and refer back to this. We've certainly also hired new, where we have moved resources or moved roles to other locations, or where there was a completely new role that didn't exist before. Clearly, we've given everyone the opportunity to apply, internal and external. So that was setting up the organization. And then in terms of the learning aspect and redeploying aspect moving forward, we are going to implement also additional ways to assess the performance of the organization. In the past, or currently still, like many other organizations, we have a sort of year-end feedback and review process. But I think this doing it once a year doesn't support our new ways of working, where we may have multiple and shorter project squads, initiatives that someone works on throughout the year with different people across the organization. So back to my marketing versus professional services versus fleet example earlier. If someone actually does this, she or he may have different project managers throughout the year, may work for different customers. So we need to build a feedback mechanism and an evaluation mechanism that supports this. We're working on this. It's likely something much quicker, much leaner, just a few questions. Someone gets asked who has worked with an individual and needs to provide sort of more quantitative performance evaluation. So over the year, we can then summarize this and get a view on an individual that's then, I guess, supported with also some qualitative feedback that we collect. That's, I think, answer one. Answer two to that question is the way resource management works. We look not only at the capability, the skill set, and the experience of an individual. We also certainly look at the development over time. And also a very, very important aspect that I'm very proud of, we're allowing people to voice their development desires, what they're looking for, the goals and everything. And even if someone hasn't done back to marketing before, but is super eager to get into the category, we may staff the project with two people, someone who hasn't done it, someone who has done it, to give a person who hasn't done it but wants to develop, grow in this space. So these are a few thoughts in relation to talent and deploying capacity. But we're still testing this out. We'll see how it goes, but I think we have a couple of a few very important pillars in place to support this.
Well, hi, Patrick. Thank you so much for patiently answering all these extra questions that we couldn't take up during our main event last week. I really appreciate you for doing this, and all the very best.
Thank you, guys. Bye.